please introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Lawrence Schimel. I'm originally from New York. I've been living in Spain for 24 years now. I'm an author in both Spanish and English and a literary translator in both directions, and I'm also an editor of a independent poetry publisher called the Midsummer Night's Press, and I'm the senior editor at North South Books in charge of their Spanish language picture book division.
What are the biggest mistakes or traps we can fall into when participating in the book fair?
I think a lot of times, especially publishers who come to book fairs for the first time, they come thinking that they will arrive and sell books right away. And book fairs are really about developing relationships and getting to know the tastes of editors. So when you pitch books, an editor may say, I like this or I didn't like that about the book, and that helps you then make better pitches in the future until you wind up getting to know each other's tastes. And so I think that people don't have enough of a long-term vision when they come to the book fairs. They think it's, that there's some secret handshake or some, that you just show up and that everything will sell right away, and that's not how it works. For that, if books sold, if rights to books sold that way, we could do it all online through computers and algorithms, and that's not how it is. I mean, I think that very often, I also think that in pitch sessions, a lot of times people are pitching too much the plot and not enough about the emotion. I think that one of the best ways to tell an editor or to convince an editor is to be passionate about, what is it that excites you about it? What is it that, what the book makes you feel? And that's a better way to sell books to an editor than just saying it's a book about this and explaining the plot. So those are two suggestions, I guess.
If I were to ask for your advice, what would you suggest to do and not to do? You explained already something. Could you please add some more tips?
Sure. One big one is to always have business cards available, no matter where you are. I mean, we're here right now in Bologna. The entire city is filled with people who love books. You never know who you're going to run into. We ran into some people on the bus, and translators. They may be like, oh, my friend's an editor somewhere else. So have business cards. Be open to meeting people. Be open to meeting different kinds of people. As a translator, for instance, I know lots of other translators, and I may talk to an editor and they say, oh, I need someone, we just bought this book from German, I need a German to Spanish translator. And I'm like, I was just having lunch with my friend, so being open and meeting people and sharing cards, having cards all the time, and also the serendipity factor. You can't plan on the serendipity factor, but it happens. So I think that a lot of people, when they come to the book fair, they focus on how many meetings they have or don't have. And being at the fair allows for moments of serendipity where, because all of these people are here, we're all passionate about books, things happen. So different fairs have different feel to them. So I mean, I personally love Bologna because Frankfurt is very much about buying and selling books that already exist, and Bologna, a lot of times projects are put together here at the book fair, and so that's something that's really special. So so I don't know, I guess those are some suggestions. I hope they're useful for people, especially for their first time. And their book fairs are wonderful. I love them. This is my first Frankfurt was in 1997, so I've been going every year since then. I love them, and I love the books, so it's just an amazing thing to be part of.
You're explaining us things we should do. What about things we cannot do?
I did talk a little bit about like what not to do. I mean, I think that some publishers, I've seen people pitch every single book as opposed to selecting the books for the right person. This is what the pitching is about learning each other's tastes. I mean, if it's just going to be every single book, they can read your catalog. They don't need you there. So the information that's not in the catalog is what you have to be conveying. To say, I can give an example. I was in Frankfurt last year, and a young adult editor into English who buys translations into English, and she said, I just bought this book about the death metal scene in Denmark in the 1980s. And she's like, I never thought I would love this, but it gave me all the feels. And so now I know that if I pitch a book to her, it doesn't matter what it's about, as long as it gives all the feels, that's what's going to make her her interested in the book. So I had pitched her a Spanish translation that I had done, and she wasn't as taken with the third-person omniscient voice. She prefers a first-person voice to really get in the. So I know now that for future projects how to pitch to her. But these are only things that take time, and so you develop it by meeting at the book fairs. You can meet every year at the same fair. Sometimes you see people once at Bologna, once in Frankfurt, once in Guadalajara. So that continuous meeting, you wind up learning each other's tastes, and that's important.
What about bad experiences? Have you had
bad experiences? I mean, this is also something that's very good about the book fair, is that you can also meet with your colleagues. You may have someone come and say, I want to buy the rights to this. And then you can talk to colleagues to see who knows them, if they're a publisher you don't know yet, to make sure that they're legitimate, that they're going to do a good job, that they'll use a translator who will do a good translation. These are things that you can coming to the fairs is very helpful for that as well. Not just making the connections, but also validating to avoid selling something to someone who may not treat the book. When we sell books, you have the copyright to literally make copies, but there's also the moral rights of the authors and the illustrators and the translators. That's important, but that not all publishers are going to be respecting.
Thank you very much.